I've really beat my opinions about General Hospital into the ground over the last almost year that I've been doing these rankings, and especially this year in particular in 2022. I've talked about how Frank needs to just be fired and out as executive producer. I've talked about how the writers just have a lack of talent and are just very weak with the writing. None of that has really changed. And when you talk about General Hospital, you have to talk about how boring it is and how they just stretch out the stories way too long. The writing is not strong enough for these stories to be stretched out too long, and that stays the case. A lot of these stories I will be talking about today have been pretty boring, but there are three characters that carried this show in August of 2022, which made it go up in my rankings a little bit. In June, General Hospital was in last place in my rankings. Last month in July, it was second to last. It's now gone up to 7th place. And that is mostly thanks to the characters of Trina, Spencer, and Ava, because they carried this show. We had some movement in their stories, which is the big deal. And we get great acting from them at all times. Those three things are really what brought up the show for me, at least a little bit, because the rest of the show is still not great. But we're going to start with the positives. And the positive is that the Trina trial finally moved along. Spencer got on the stand and admitted that he was out of Spring Ridge and at the cemetery with Trina when the video of Cam and Josh went on at the school of them having sex. Spencer was putting all that out there for Trina because of his feelings for her, and Portia also played a big role in getting her daughter out and innocent at the trial. I've talked about how this story had so many holes in it. It was a very poorly plotted out story, and that hindered most of it. I think they wrapped it up as best as they could, and they gave us some decent character moments that I enjoyed. We also had Spencer admitting to Josh and Cam that he loves Trina, but of course never got a chance to tell that to Trina because Trina's been going off with Rory, and those two, now that she is off, can continue their relationship. But I feel like overall the writers are at least still on the right path with where they're going with this, with Rory and Trina being together, Spencer having to fight for Trina, and we see the looks these two give each other at all times. We know the chemistry between them still, even if it's not the original actress anymore. I think Tabiana has brought her own flair to the character, and she still has chemistry. So she has chemistry with a lot of people. So the coupling of Sprina still works great for me. It's still one of the best potential couples in all of soap operas. They're going in the right direction, but with this show, it's just how long can they stretch it out? And it can't be too long. It's already been long. We don't even have a kiss between these two. We still don't. The negative is we still don't get enough scenes between those two for my liking. Like, the crumbs that they give for these two only go so far. We at least had a lot. I wouldn't even say a lot, but we at least had some interactions between these two characters in August. Another reason why I could bring the show up a little bit in my rankings. So while they're on the right track, it just cannot be too stretched out, because you see what stretching things out too long does to a couple like Chase and Brooklyn, who, don't even get me started on the love potion. The fact that these two characters needed a love potion to admit their feelings for each other, they are writing those two like they are teenagers, but somehow Spencer and Trina are written more adults than these two. This is just more of the writing, like, it boggles my mind. It boggles my mind. These two should be a hot couple. I get it, it's a soap opera, but like, soap operas used to be hot in the 80s and 90s in particular. But even over on Days of Our Lives, we still see couples in bed together all the time, which is where Chase and Brooklyn should be. they ran out of ideas how to keep these two apart, and instead of just bringing them together naturally and making them this kind of hot couple, they just spin their wheels and don't know what to do with them because they are talentless writers. And so they had to have this love potion ridiculousness to get this couple together. Stupid as hell. But that stupidity aside, we also got a lot of Ava this month, and a climax kinda to the Esme and Nick having sex story, and Ava and Esme having a confrontation and a fight, and Ava pushes her off, and Esme falls to her death allegedly, but not really. Ava is a character that really did not get a lot of stories this year in 2022, and it's something I never really talked about, but it became really noticeable until we finally see her have her own story again, kinda. Maura West is a great actress. Loved Carly and Jack on As the World Turns. And when she gets a story, she will bring it. We saw her bring it with this story. We see her getting the truth about what happened with Nick and Esme, and the confrontations between Ava and Nick, and then Spencer overhearing them talking about Nick sleeping with Esme. This whole story, however, has completely killed the character of Nick. I don't think the character of Nick will ever or could ever be redeemed from how stupid they have written this man. And at the end of August, we see Ava getting stabbed with a hook, whoever that could be. It was very rushed. They started to give different characters the possibilities of being the person who stabbed Ava. It just seems like another story that's going to be stretched out on this show. That's my apprehension with every story on this damn soap opera, because of the producer and the writers, is that every story gets stretched out way too long and becomes boring. But the setup was also very weak, similar to that of Who Killed Abby on Days. It came from out of nowhere, and this kind of seemed like it came from out of nowhere too, who stabbed Ava. But we'll give it a chance. We'll see where it goes. I know a few spoilers. It's going to probably continue to keep Spencer and Trina apart. But hopefully it's written good enough. Not that I have the faith that it will be, but hopefully. Elsewhere, we still have the character of Cody, where they have completely rewritten the history of the character of Dominique back in the day to make Dominique his mother. Now, I watched very little of General Hospital from that period of time in the early 90s, but I've saw people bring this up, how it's a total retcon of Dominique's character, who died being sad that she never gave birth, and now they rewrite her to have given birth to Cody. They just really want to make this character of Cody happen, and it's just not going to happen. I will never like the character of Cody. He's been shoved down our throats ridiculously. We've gone months on end with characters getting so little screen time. Popular General Hospital characters like Elizabeth getting very little screen time, but we get Cody shoved down our throats multiple times a week as an extremely annoying character who has no chemistry with Britt, in my opinion, and that couple has no future, in my opinion, so it is a waste of my time. Cody is fast forward material for me, and probably always will be. We also have, of course, Drew and Carly, another couple that I think is just more boring than not. It's not really going to work for me there. They're also teasing that Joss may have an affair with the character of Dex. Maybe she'll cheat on Cam. There's worry that the writers will make it Cam's fault that Joss cheats, and I wouldn't doubt they would go there, since they want to make the show revolve around her mother Carly, and they try and write Joss like her mother Carly. But we'll see where the story goes. You know, like all of these stories, the pacing is a detriment to the entire show. It makes me apprehensive about every single story going on. But for now, I put General Hospital up to 7th place in my rankings. It can easily fall back down, though, because of the way this show is written and the pace of it. But it could go up, too, if they just give me some good stories for Spencer, Trina, and Ava.